EIP-1559 is poised to greatly enhance the user experience on Ethereum for processing transactions. Of course, most people like to focus on the fee burn aspect of EIP-1559, and so do we. But the overall benefits of EIP-1559 go far beyond the fee burn and will have a positive impact on end users. Welcome back to Ethereum Audible. Hope your Tuesday is going great. Are you ready for another read? This one today is very timely because for those who live in NFT land, there was a drop by Yuga Labs over the weekend that just made Ethereum gas fees skyrocket, go through the roof, bring down the chain. Not bring down the chain, but just cause all the gas fees to spike, congest it with traffic, and in general make a lot of people very unhappy. I'm not so into NFTs in the same sense that everyone else is, so I just woke up on Sunday, Monday, looking at all of my Twitter thread and not understanding what the fuss was about. But once I figured it out, I really wanted to dive into gas fees and EIP 1559, which was approved and implemented not that many months ago, and just has a lot of misunderstanding about it. And not more than a day after I thought this would be a great thing, what should I read? One of my favorite newsletter writers, Anthony Sassano, put out a post about it in the Daily Gwei. This is the Gwei, called This is EIP 1559, the Daily Gwei newsletter 300. And I thought, great, let's read that. So that is what we're going to be reading today. This is EIP 1559. It's basically a breakdown, a reminder, an overview of what EIP 1559 is and what it means to gas fees, how it impacts gas. Most people know it for the burn, but it also plays a big role in smoothing gas fees. And so that is what we're going to be reading today. But naturally, just like always, I want to give a big shout out to Alpe Audio. ALPE Audio. Ethereum Audible is basically a listener-supported podcast where hopefully you guys support me, and you do that by checking out Alpe Audio, which is the app that I've developed and created content for. Alpe is your home for on-the-go learning. It's audio courses on all kinds of different topics so that you can learn in-depth on the go when you have time to do it. Every course is built specifically for on-the-go learning and memory retention so that the learning and the listening that you're doing actually sticks and you can remember what the hell you were listening to. Unlike most podcasts, probably like Ethereum Audible, every lesson comes with a summary and flashcards and additional resources so that you can dive into things later. I'm wrapping up some courses on building in public and personal branding, which I'm really excited about. You can already sign up for them. They're coming soon. And our most recent course that we released is called Venture Capital 101, where you can learn the ins and outs, the ropes, and an introduction to the world of venture capital, raising money and investing. So go check it out on either app store. Anyway, without further ado, let's go into this is EIP 1559, the Daily Gwei, Anthony Sassano. Let's go. Today's a special day, as it's the day of the 300th edition of the Daily Gwei newsletter. To mark this occasion, I've teamed up with my good friend Nader to put together an EIP 1559 explainer piece. It's the first piece that I've written with a co-author for the newsletter, and I'm excited that it's about one of the most important upgrades in Ethereum's history. Nader and I would also like to extend our thanks to both Tim Bieko and Trent Van Epps for their review and feedback of this piece. There's been a lot of hype in the Ethereum community around EIP 1559 since it was first proposed in April of 2019. Now, with EIP 1559 scheduled to go live on mainnet next week with the London upgrade, Nader and I have put together this piece to give you an overview of EIP 1559 and how it brings with it many benefits outside of the well-known fee burn. The core benefits of EIP 1559 are 1. Better transaction fee estimation, 2. Creates a symbiotic relationship between ETH, Ethereum, and its users, 3. Allows for more reliable transaction inclusion. What EIP 1559 doesn't do. 1, it doesn't lower gas prices in the long run, and 2, it doesn't make ETH deflationary by default. Before fully diving into EIP-1559, it is essential to clear up a few misunderstandings. First, EIP-1559 doesn't inherently make it cheaper to transact on Ethereum in the long run. Gas prices fluctuate based on the demand to submit a transaction versus the supply of available block space. This EIP only helps smooth out gas prices by allowing the block size to increase slightly during sudden surges in demand. It doesn't increase the scalability of the chain, and therefore isn't a solution that will lower gas prices in the long run. Second, even though some amount of ETH is burned for every transaction, it does not necessarily mean that enough ETH will be burned to offset the current issuance rate. For that to happen, a base fee of 150 Gwei would need to be sustained to offset the current ETH1 proof-of-work issuance, and a base fee of 20 Gwei would be required to offset the current ETH2 proof-of-stake issuance. Current gas price auction. Currently, Ethereum uses a first price auction for pricing transactions, meaning users that bid the highest prices are the ones that are most likely going to have their transactions included first. However, the biggest issue with this model is that gas prices can fluctuate wildly due to sudden surges in demand for Ethereum's limited block space. Users often have to gamble when they submit a transaction and frequently overpay to guarantee that their transactions are included. Overall, EIP-1559 seeks to provide a better user experience by changing how transaction fees are estimated and how the network handles surges in usage. Important changes made by EIP-1559: 1. Base fee, priority fee, and max fee. 2. Variable block size. And 3. The base burning fee. Let's go into each. Base fee, priority fee, and max fee. The base fee is the minimum gas price required for a transaction to be included in a block. This is set by the protocol and is variable, is a part of the block header, and is the portion of the overall fee that is burned. The priority fee, the tip, is the gas price that the user is willing to tip the miner to process the transaction. This is set by the user. It's a part of the transaction and is paid to the miner. It is expected that the default tip will be 2 Gwei. The max fee per gas is the highest total gas price that the user is willing to pay for the transaction. This is set by the user and it's a part of the transaction. After EIP-1559 has been implemented, a transaction will only be valid if the max fee is greater than the base fee plus the priority fee. An excess amount is refunded back to the user. Just a reminder, this is not in the newsletter. The max fee is the highest total gas price that the user is willing to pay, and that has to be equal to priority fee, which is the tip, and the base fee, which is the minimum gas price required for a transaction to be included in a block. Back to the newsletter. As a result, users will have much more certainty when submitting a transaction because they only need to make sure that they include enough to pay the base fee and a small priority fee to have their transaction included. The user doesn't need to worry about overbidding on gas prices because the remainder is refunded back to them rather than paid to a miner or a staker. With the creation of the new EIP-1559 transaction type, wallets and other service or infrastructure providers will need to upgrade to support it. However, legacy transactions will still work even after EIP-1559 has been implemented. The network will interpret the priority fee as the difference between the legacy gas price and the current base fee. The downside of this is that the legacy transactions do not provide a refund if the user overpays. Variable block size. Currently, Ethereum has a gas limit that caps all blocks at 15 million gas. You can think of the gas limit as the block size in Ethereum, which limits the amount of transactions that can fit into a single block. Currently, whenever there is a surge in demand, gas prices rise dramatically because the blocks are always full and are capped at a specific size. EIP-1559 makes it so that the block size can temporarily increase to accommodate a sudden influx in demand. It does this with two different block parameters, the limit and the target. The target is 50% of the limit, meaning if the target is 15 million gas, the limit would be 30 million. Ideally, Ethereum wants the size of each block to be the closest to the target, which is 50% of the max capacity. To make sure that blocks stay close to the target, Ethereum will lower the base fee if blocks are smaller than the target, and it will increase the base fee if they are larger than the target. It's also worth noting that in this scenario, the base fee actually increases really fast, as it will increase by 12.5% for each full block. Now, this may not seem like a lot, but it means that the base fee will 10x in 20 blocks, which is around 260 seconds. It'll 100x in 40 blocks, which is 520 seconds, and would have burnt all available ether after 170 blocks. You can play around with this spreadsheet from Trent Van Epps to get a better idea of how this all works. So, to summarize, variable block size smooths out gas prices by allowing the protocol to increase the available block space temporarily. This results in a smoother increase in gas prices between blocks in the short term. Base fee burning. While the priority fee is given to the miner, the base fee is burned and removed from circulation. The primary reason for this is if the base fee were paid to the miners, they would be incentivized to keep it as high as possible to maximize profits, and could also spam the network with high transaction fees, which would be later recouped if they mined a block. By burning the base fee, it guarantees that miners are indifferent about this. Burning the base fee makes ETH an inherent part of the Ethereum protocol. Right now, technically, any cryptocurrency or even fiat can be used to pay for processing a transaction on Ethereum. A user can submit a transaction with no fee and cut a deal to pay the miner outside of the blockchain. This is what Flashbots enables. With EIP-1559, it is necessary to include a small amount of ETH as the base fee for the network to accept the transaction is valid, thus creating a more healthy relationship between ETH the asset and the Ethereum network. Conclusion. As you can see, EIP-1559 is poised to greatly enhance the user experience on Ethereum for processing transactions. Of course, most people like to focus on the fee burn aspect of EIP-1559, and so do we. But the overall benefits of EIP-1559 go far beyond the fee burn and will have a positive impact on end users. If you'd like to dive much deeper into EIP-1559, you can check out this collection of resources from Tim Bako. Have a great day, everyone. Anthony Sassano. Well, that was EIP-1559 on the Daily Gwei. That was newsletter number 300. If you go to Substack and sign up for the newsletter, you will see that today we are at the Daily Gwei number 472. So Anthony Sassano really puts out content very often about Ethereum, and highly recommend you subscribe to the newsletter. I think the really great thing about this piece is that it just brings together the different parts of EIP-1559 besides burning ETH, and how the majority of the EIP is really not around burning ETH, it's actually around smoothing out the gas burn and the gas prices, to be more precise, and playing with the base rate and the amount of gas that a block can support to smooth out and kind of expand and contract the amount of block space that any given block has. At the end of the day, and this is kind of the core thing to take away, what determines the gas price is supply and demand. The more demand there is for a finite supply of any product, the higher the price. And while block space isn't a finite supply because there is a new block every 7, 10, 15 seconds, there's a very limited supply of block space based on the demand that's needed. And so today we're just in a supply-demand imbalance where there are many more people who want to interact with Ethereum than there is block space at any given moment. And that's why gas prices are high. And what EIP-1559 does is it doesn't help solve that equation. The only thing that helps solve that is creating more supply, and we only do that with layer 2s. But what EIP-1559 does is that at those extreme events of a large surge in demand, it helps spread it out a little bit further by increasing the local block size. And also, it has this automatic pricing out mechanism where the rise in gas prices is so extreme that it causes the spike in gas to spread out over a longer time horizon. Because if it would go up 12.5% every single block, well, in 5 minutes, you've reached untenable gas prices even for the largest whales. And so that's the core idea for EIP-1559. It's to help manage those extreme volatility spikes in gas prices. And not so much to burn ETH, even though the ultrasound money meme is really what took over about this EIP. And that's part of the story of what happened with the Yuga Labs Bored Ape Yacht Club's mint over the weekend, where there was just so much demand for Ethereum block space and so much gas, just gas wars. Everyone was bidding on it, on to be the one to mint, that demand overwhelms supply, gas prices spike, the mainnet gets clogged, can't deal with the huge influx of demand, and people lose out money on gas. And the only way to solve that is to not incur such a large demand spike on mainnet, because that's just not where we're at with Ethereum. Unfortunately, fortunately, whatever it is, it just doesn't work. The same thing holds true, by the way, for other chains like Solana. They've run into the same issues, I think, over the same weekend with also an NFT drop. Just people know that there's so much alpha in these drops. It's easy money. It's basically like an IPO pop where there isn't enough supply of stock to satiate the demand for it, and therefore the price goes up in a very, very discontinuous function kind of format where priced at 25 and all of a sudden it pops to 75. The same thing happens here. Anyway, I hope this gave you a better idea of EIP 1559. Next week, I'm very excited because we have a different format for the episode. We've got an interview between me and Robert Lauco, the co-founder of Liquidity Protocol, and we're going to be discussing all of the different topics that we've been reading about these past few months: governance, immutability, decentralization, the risks in DeFi. I think Liquidity Protocol is a really great case study on all of these factors, and that's what I'm going to be diving into with Robert next week on the podcast. Have a great one.